This happened when I was 21. In the fall of 2017, my grandpa had a hunting cabin deep in the Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia, so deep that even the rangers barely acknowledged it existed. The dirt road flooded every spring. There was no electricity, no running water, just a rusty old stove and an outhouse that looked like it was trying to escape into the woods. My cousin Ryan was 23 at the time, and every October, right before deer season opened, we begged to use it because the forest was completely empty. We arrived Friday before sunset. The last bit of cell signal was 3 hours behind us. We unloaded our stuff, got the stove going, cracked open a few sodas, talked about girls, college, and whatever 20-something guys talk about. Everything felt normal. Around 1:15 a.m., we passed out, me on the bottom bunk, Ryan sawing logs above me. At 3:12 a.m., I shot awake. Heavy boot steps were moving across the front porch. Slow, deliberate, back and forth, back and forth. I thought Ryan had gotten up to use the bathroom, but his breathing never changed. The steps stopped right in front of the door. Someone turned the old brass handle a quarter turn until it clicked against the deadbolt, then let it go. 10 seconds of pure dead silence. Then the steps started again down the porch, circling the cabin. I heard someone testing every window, every latch, one by one, with their fingers. Everything was locked. They made 2 full laps around the cabin. Then they headed to the outhouse. The crooked door creaked open. 5 seconds of nothing. Then it slammed so violently the cabin walls shook and dust fell from the ceiling. I nearly screamed. The footsteps came straight back, stopping again at the front door, and then nothing. For 10 solid minutes, they didn't move. I sat there with my grandpa's 12 gauge on my lap, finger near the trigger, but terrified to touch it. Ryan was awake now too, eyes wide in the dark. Neither of us said a word. Finally, the steps moved again, slowly, crunching through the frozen leaves, back into the same impossible darkness they had come from. We didn't sleep. At first light, we bolted outside. The ground was frozen, and there they were, huge size 13 boot prints, fresh as could be. They came straight from the tree line 300 meters away. No trail, no path, just thick brush circled the cabin 3 full times, touched every door and window, went to the outhouse, then walked the exact same line straight back into the woods. No other tracks anywhere. We threw our stuff in the truck and got the hell out. My grandpa went the next weekend to check on the place. He called that night, sounding off. The door had been locked. The windows had been latched from the inside. His key was still on his keyring, but someone had definitely been inside. Our sleeping bags were folded military tight, corners perfect. The canned food we left was wiped clean and reorganized on the table by expiration date, earliest in front. And my hiking boots, the ones I arrived in, were gone. Just mine. Ryan's were still under the bunk, and there were muddy size 13 prints on the floor, from the door to the table and back. He took pictures, locked up again, and left. 3 weeks later, a hiker found an illegal campsite about a mile deeper into the forest. Just a blue tarp strung between trees, a filthy sleeping bag, and a low shelf made of sticks. On the shelf were dozens of items laid out like some kind of display. Old cell phones, car keys, wallets with IDs still inside, kids' toys, a single women's high heel, a cracked iPhone 4, One ID belonged to a 28-year-old man who vanished while hunting in 2014. They searched for him for weeks with helicopters. They never found a trace. No one ever found the person living there. The site was abandoned overnight. My grandpa sold the cabin the next spring. Before the sale went through, he went one last time in late February to grab some tools. Snow had fallen 2 days before and frozen over. When he arrived, a single line of massive boot prints led straight from the woods to the porch, and the cabin door was standing wide open. He felt sick. Inside, all the furniture had been pushed against the walls, and in the dead center of the room sat my missing boots, clean, perfect, laces tied in neat bows, toes pointed toward the door, like they were waiting. He collected his tools, backed out, locked the door, and never returned. The new owners lasted 8 months. Last year they called my grandpa, asking if he'd had problems with locals. They said sometimes they'd wake up and all the shoes in the cabin were gone, every pair only to find them at sunrise lined up in a perfect row on the porch, toes facing the forest like soldiers. Once among them was a tiny red child's Converse that belonged to no one. The cabin went back on the market last month. The price dropped again. I threw away every pair of hiking boots I owned, and I still check my closet at 3:12 a.m. sometimes. My friends David, Chloe, and I were in our final year of college, trying to plan something different for our winter break. Ski resorts were too expensive. The Caribbean was a dream. That's when David found the listing online. An old hunting and fishing cabin on the shore of a remote lake in northern Maine. It was called the Lakeside Keeper's Lodge. From the outside it looked rustic, but the interior photos were shockingly cozy. The real hook was the price, $450 for the entire week, for the whole cabin. David insisted. This is the deal of a lifetime. The listing claimed the owner, a local fisherman named Mr. Silas, only wanted to cover winter maintenance costs, since the lodge was rarely visited during the cold season. There weren't many reviews, but the ones there all used words like peaceful, quiet, and close to nature. We left on Friday afternoon. Once we crossed into Maine, civilization just melted away. After the last gas station, there were only trees, frozen marshes, and fog. The GPS led us down a narrow dirt road. Chloe kept checking her phone. The signal bars faded like a dying shadow until they were completely gone. By the time we arrived, it was dark. The place was much more intimidating than we expected. The photos hadn't shown how isolated it really was. The cabin was wedged between towering pines, almost swallowed by the forest. The lake was frozen over, stretching out like an endless sheet of black glass. The moment we stepped out of the car, the silence hit us. Not peaceful silence, the kind that swallows every sound, heavy and threatening. When we knocked, Mr. Silas appeared instantly. 60-ish, tall, thin. His face looked tired, but there was something expectant in his expression. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his voice echoing in the cold. He showed us around. The lodge had 3 bedrooms, a large living room with a stone fireplace, and a massive kitchen. "This place shouldn't be this cheap," David muttered. Silas smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. When we reached the 3rd bedroom, David noticed something odd. The bedroom doors had standard locks on the inside, but also mounted on the outside of each door heavy, old-fashioned slide bolts, as if the rooms were designed for someone outside to lock the person inside. David asked, "Mr. Silas, what are these bolts for?" Silas rested a hand on the door. "Oh, those old building. Some guests like to wander around the woods at night, you know. Bears, bobcats. These bolts keep anything from getting inside while they sleep. Just a safety measure." Before leaving, Silas added one more thing. "At night, keep the curtains closed if you're looking out. Lights across the lake can be unsettling. Also, don't leave the cabin after dark." We ate dinner and went to bed early. It was around 2 a.m. What woke me wasn't a noise, it was a feeling, like someone was watching me. I got up and went to the window. The curtains were thick, so I only had a narrow gap to see through. The lake was white with snow, the moon casting long, warped shadows of trees across the ice. That's when I saw it. In the middle of the lake stood a small ice-fishing hut, far away but unmistakable. A light inside was pointed toward our cabin's windows. I remembered Silas telling us no one else lived anywhere near here. Worse, the light was moving, slowly, methodically scanning across our windows like someone inside was checking one window after another. I ran back to bed and didn't sleep again. At breakfast, I told David and Chloe. David scoffed. "Cold weather messes with your brain." Chloe looked uneasy. Maybe that's what Silas meant by lights across the lake. I convinced them to go check out the hut. We walked 15 minutes across the ice. As we reached it, the hut sat there like a forgotten box in the middle of nowhere, but around it, not a single footprint. The door was slightly open. David called out, hoping someone was inside. No answer. We peeked in. Total chaos: cans, empty water bottles, broken radio parts. In the corner was a thick, leather-bound journal. The last page was scribbled in a shaky hand. "The lights come at night. They're watching me. Silas always smiles, but his eyes don't see. I can't get out. The doors." We grabbed the journal and sprinted back. The hope that this was some prank died instantly. Whoever wrote it had been trapped like we were about to be. The only clear clue was the doors. Why were the bedroom doors designed to lock from the outside? Why protect us from going outside? David muttered, "His bear story is bullshit. We're the ones meant to be locked in." He started searching the cabin again. Something was off. The lodge's size, age, there should have been a basement. In the pantry, behind stacks of cans and cleaning supplies, we found a small, nearly invisible latch. David pulled it. A section of the wall swung outward. Behind it, stairs descending into darkness. We turned on our phone flashlights and went down. Dampness and mold hit us, but beneath it, the strong smell of cleaning chemicals. The basement wasn't a storage space. It was a workshop. Tools, shelves, everything absurdly organized. And then we saw the corner that froze us. Cork boards. Covered in hundreds of Polaroids, young people, our age, smiling, skiing, posing. But under each picture were labels. Boston, March 2018. Michigan, winter 2020. Denver, spring 2022. They looked like photos straight from missing persons posters, and in every picture one detail stood out. They were taken from outside windows or from hidden vantage points. Silas had been stalking young travelers for years. Next to the boards lay notebooks and telescope lenses. It wasn't the ice hut's light that had watched us. It was Silas from right outside the cabin. On a small table were 3 heavy metal boxes, each labeled. First box, Chloe. Second box, David. Third box, my name. Hands shaking, I opened mine. Inside was a copy of my ID, my student card, and worst of all, a freshly cut duplicate key that fit the outside slide bolt of my bedroom door. The boards weren't history. They were a plan in progress. Then we heard it. A sound above us. The pantry door had closed. Mr. Silas had shut us in. David panicked and started to force the door. He failed. David grabbed a heavy metal crowbar from the table and ripped a shelf off the wall. His goal was to break the pantry door that led upstairs. Just then, a familiar sound came from above, from the front door of the lodge. Mr. Silas's annoying whistle. He was coming to the kitchen. David shouted, "To the window, the living room window." Chloe and I ran into the living room through the small opening David had made. A faint light was coming from the fireplace. The living room window was enormous. Chloe didn't wait for David to come. She grabbed one of the chairs and smashed the glass to pieces in a single move. Snow piled beneath the window. We threw ourselves out into the freezing night. David stumbled, twisting his ankle, but he kept running. We sprinted to the car. Keys David had them. The engine finally caught, tires spinning, and we shot down the dirt road. In the rearview mirror, I saw Silas standing in the doorway, staring at us. No anger, no surprise. Just that same waiting, disturbing smile. We called the police afterward. When they raided the lodge, they found Silas, and they found several bedrooms whose outer bolts were locked. Inside were 2 young couples who thought they were on vacation and hadn't realized they'd been locked in for days. Silas was arrested, but the police found no trace of the people from the Polaroids. Just like the key in David's box, those guests were meant to go missing. Silas still isn't talking. And the most disturbing part? When police searched the woods around the Lakeside Keeper's Lodge, they reported something strange. They never found the ice fishing hut. It was gone, as if the person inside, the one sweeping that light across the windows, was still out there somewhere in the forest